contributions. You've been here for 10 years. Here's a $10 gift card to Starbucks. That is the Odyssey way. I'm kind of like Charles Barkley, just ripping a company.
I know you're big time.
Not everybody can get with that. Certainly he can.
I'm going to be humble in this one.
Why y'all so scared to say that on air? It's no problem with that. Shasky Spinoni snickering. I'm just well-rounded. It's an Odyssey move.
Sometimes the best jokes are the ones you don't say.
No, say it on air. Inside jokes are not fun. We're on radio and I'm talking. And you guys are doing it while I'm talking with the mics off, so I want to hear it.
I get it, Rock. Listen, Playboy.
You feel
Don't
me?
be scared.
I feel like I'm too short over here.
Don't be scared.
Get in where you fit
say
in,
it with
fool.
your chest.
You was a mark up in the high school.
Just say it.
I'm not scared.
Now you're hardcore
If you
like
retired-
CB4. Biting. What you want to be me for? It's your life. You wish it was a Too Short rap. Oh, my gosh. I love Too Short.
Try to change the subject.
You like that
I don't know where the
pivot?
T-shirt. I don't know. No, you guys are scary. Say it with your chest. Odyssey would not show you the same love as John Sterling. The company here at Odyssey, as we had the town hall last week with Susan Larkin. What is the return on investment for you being here for 10 years? What's our ROI? Oh, okay, he did this and that. All right, here's $20 at Chipotle.
Can we make money off it?
What is going on here?
Here's what's going on.
Oh, man.
Greg Johnson sat down with an Odyssey insider, Tim Kawakami, who has an Odyssey, it's called the TK Show, and it's presented only by Odyssey Sports on the Odyssey app. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, because Tim Kawakami is with the Odyssey.
He's our teammate now.
He really is. I mean, me and him, basically the same dude.
Just like when Chris
Journalists.
Paul joined the Warriors, now TK's joined
100%.
95.7 The Game family.
He's been with us for a long time. By the way, TK is, when The Athletic launched, guess who let him host the show to talk about it? 95.7 The Game.
That was at the old building,
Old
right?
building, yeah.
Double old building.
Double old
Because
building.
I actually ran into him. I was coming in to meet the original guy that was there when I was there, Don Collins.
Shout out Don Collins.
And, yeah.
Hired me with no experience. Shout out Don
Canada's
Collins.
own.
Canada's own. Love me some Don Collins.
Best thing that ever happened to me in my radio career was Matt Nahigian taking over. That's all I'm going to say. Don Collins did not have a future for me at this station.
Oh, Don Collins gave me a contract with no on-air
I
experience.
would
Thank
like you to call in every day, 7:30 in the morning for free for the next 3 years, and we'll see where it goes. 3 years. Something ridiculous like that. And I was like,
So Tim Kawakami is a teammate. He joined Willard and Dibs yesterday. Boy, they seem to get a lot of good guests on that show.
well, assistant program director Lucas Alexander hoarding all the good guests.
They had Bill Burr on. Wow. Doing big things in the afternoon. So they talked to Tim Kawakami, and obviously Greg Johnson sat down with him, and he's starting to make some noise and trying to put his name out there with the San Francisco Giants. So he said a lot. He had a lot going on here. Where do you want to start? Do we want to talk farm system? Do you want to talk struggles of superstar? What do you want to do? What are we doing? I know the biggest thing I took away was he basically blamed the ballpark for not being able to attract big-time free agent hitters, batters. Basically said the ballpark just doesn't help. It's a crown jewel, but hitters are reluctant to go there to hit. It's so hard to hit home runs. So what are we doing about the ballpark? You want to move the fences in even more?
No.
Do you want to break down the bricks?
I mean, you bring the fences in anymore, and more of your center fielders are going to come crashing into them. No, we're not doing that. That's number one. First off, the way that you develop sluggers 9 times out of 10 is not through free agency. You can supplement through free agency. You have to draft and develop your own. McCovey, Mays, Cepeda, go right down the list. Will Clark, Matt Williams. Now, you traded for Jeff Kent. You signed Barry Bonds, but you drafted Barry Bonds. He chose to go from high school. He said, no, I don't want to go to the Giants because the signing bonus wasn't big enough. I'm going to go to Arizona State, right? And so, yeah, because you got Bonds via free agency, which is a very unique situation because he was born in San Mateo, raised here. His dad played for the Giants. Dusty was coming here, and he chose the Giants over the Yankees at that time. That's the one marquee free agent. You could supplement through free agency. Drafting and developing and then trades are infinitely more of a plausible way of creating and finding power hitters than it is via free agency.
I agree with you there. Now, we talked about developing and, I think this, I think we all want to see the Giants win.
Yes.
They go to the playoffs. We all do.
Yes.
Now, we also want to see the youngsters develop. We do. And if it costs you a playoff spot, I think some people are okay with that. I'm not okay with that. I know Fleming isn't okay with that. Is Greg Johnson okay with that? Here's what Greg Johnson told Tim Kawakami about the goals for this season with the San Francisco Giants.
Well, I think it's mandatory every year, for us to be hopeful of making the playoffs. And I think we've got a team that should make the playoffs. It's very competitive. National League West, there's a lot of good teams right now vying for those wild card spots. So it's going to be a good race. But, I think we should make the playoffs this year. And I think if we do make the playoffs and we get some pitching back and get a Robbie Ray back in the second half and Cobb back, we could have one of the most formidable starting pitching staffs in baseball, which again puts us in a great position, should we make the playoffs. But I think in the meantime, we'll just take it game by game and do what we're doing right now.
He said it is mandatory. Mandatory. So we get Fleming last week talking about the goal is the playoffs, bottom line. And we get the owner saying it's mandatory. And by the way, you guys know where I'm going to go with this. Farhan Zaidi tells Susan Slessor, what? The stakes are high.
The older I get, the more I realize how absurd the sentences are by some of the people that run teams. And look, I get what the mantra has to be publicly, but the reality is, like, I've been a sports fan all 40 years of my life, right? You're not going to make the playoffs every year. You're just not. And I know everyone says it. We're going to win forever. We're going to win. We try to win the championship every year. Like, that kind of goes without saying. So for him to say, we think we should make the playoffs, like as definitively as he said, every single year, that's a great thing to say. But to me, it also lacks the reality of, like, you're not going to have playoff windows every single year. And I think it's actually more long-term realistic to be like, there's ebbs and flows to these things. Yep. When we feel it's appropriate, we are going to push all the chips into the middle of the table. When you're the Houston Astros right now, your window is now, right? And you're struggling. You've had a struggle at times this year. You're starting to pick it back up. But, like, your window is right now. The Golden State Warriors, we have the franchise player, the greatest player in franchise history in Steph Curry. This feels like your window. I don't think they're going to say to whoever the coach is and whoever the players are, once Steph leaves them, it's mandatory to make the playoffs and be in a championship title run every single year. I just don't think that that's realistic. I don't think that's realistic, but I understand from a business perspective saying it out loud. It is mandatory to make the playoffs this year, and we're trying to make the playoffs every single year. But the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, that sounds great in like a statement, and I'm sure fans are like, yeah, but that's just not real. Am I tripping for saying that out loud?
It's probably not real, but when you make the playoffs one time in 7 years, you better make it real. You better at least act like you're trying. Because I tell you, as a fan, and look, I don't spend a lot of money on games. I spend money on season tickets with the Niners, but obviously if I didn't want to, I could go for free. But I'm just speaking for fans who do have to spend top dollar. If you're going to spend top dollar and you're going to go to these games and you want to be entertained, you damn sure want a winner. And, mandatory to make the playoffs, well, that's what I'm talking about. Honestly, I know it's not realistic. It's not realistic to win championships. I'm no dummy. You're not going to win championships every single year. We're waiting on the Niners to win a championship. They haven't won since 1994, 95. And I thought it was mandatory that they won every single year. They didn't. And they haven't for a long, long time. But I do like the mandatory that it's mandatory for us to make the playoffs every year. I like that. I can roll with that. But I like those type of expectations for the organization. So when you put on that Giants cap and you walk into, because you know what? We see the Yankees. Mm-hmm. You know what's mandatory for them? It's to win the World Series. Anything else is a disappointment. Yeah. That is the Yankee way. Even though it's unrealistic, it is a disappointment if they don't win. I like those expectations. That's how I roll.
On the surface, I agree. But I looking at the current Yankees, they've got 3 All-Stars who are been All-Stars, 5+ times each in Stanton, Judge, and Soto. It makes sense for them to have that calibration. When I look at the Giants right now.
But they always have it, though. Yankees always have that.
No, I agree. But that's why they exist in their own unique little stratosphere. And everyone wants to be in that stratosphere. But, just look at this Giants roster. How many other markets are like, oh, yeah, a Matt Chapman-led team with not one other name recognition player, that's a team that should be mandatorily making the playoffs. I'm saying, like, look at their roster.
Well,
and how many guys actually have cachet.
Okay, but then I could play the other side and say, well, look at their payroll.
Well, that's a different conversation. And here's what I'd say about the payroll. Yeah, that's not reflective of excellent GMing because you've had to overpay to put some patchwork out there. That's not money well spent.
But when you spend that type of money, all of a sudden we're looking, wait, y'all spent $190 million? You're not making the playoffs? What the hell's going on up there? It's San Francisco. Like, $200 million. When you spent $20 on Jock Peterson?
It sure doesn't feel like $200 million. Wow, in the sense that you don't have the long-term deals.
No, you don't.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, it feels different.
It is different because you got all the opt-outs.
And maybe I'm splicing.
No. I like the opt-outs. I think it protects yourself, but it also tells you, boy, can you get somebody to sign here long-term? Does anybody want to be here? Do they have to come here with player options? Are you not? I mean, that doesn't tell me that you're attractive when everybody, like when the Yankee side guys, they ain't looking for no player. You know what I'm saying? You get 6-year, 5-year deals, 4-year deals, 7-year guarantees, all that stuff. Red Sox too, Dodgers, all of that. Well, Shohei's different, but, Yamamoto's got a 13-year deal. Whatever the hell it is. Mookie Betts.
But they've got 3 future Hall of Famers.
I understand that.
And Kershaw, Betts, and Freeman.
That. They have to overpay. I get the Giants do, but with that said, they have those players. You see it, like, wow, okay. The Giants can't get those players. They haven't been able to attract those players.
Well, the Giants in the last 10 years, if I go 2015 through now, are closer to the Sacramento Kings in terms of what they've been product-wise than the Golden State Warriors, for example, right?
Yep.
So I just think that I understand, like, the payroll, and you have to overpay, though, where you're at. It's like the Harrison Barnes, not Harrison Barnes, it's like the David Lee contract for the Warriors prior to winning championships. You have to overpay to get those guys.
Derek Fisher. You got $36 million to Derek Fisher. Why? Because you need to show the rest of the league, like, hey, we're the Warriors. We exist. We play basketball, and we have money to spend.
But here's where I feel like this whole mandatory playoffs thing, while I understand it because jobs are at the line and this is a big boy business, I get it. I get all that.
I do love it.
I would be very frustrated if I see, like, Ramos has 3 or 4 bad games and all of a sudden, boom, he gets sent, DFA'd because he's out of options, right? And you bring Slater back. And it's like, well, he struggled a little and you got to go back to the veterans. You got to go back to the veterans like that. I'm not willing to do that right now. And if your argument is, well, you got to try to make the playoffs, it's like, well, wait a minute. What about the long game? Because this isn't a championship window right now. Right. You don't have Steph Curry on the roster. You don't have, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and all these guys in a sport where dudes are here today, gone tomorrow. So, like, I feel like they're stuck in a catch-22.
But I do like the expectation that he's setting. It puts everybody urgency, right? We want urgency with the Giants. Well, to me, that screams urgency. When you say it's mandatory that we make the playoffs, that screams urgency. Now, he's also not happy. And by the way, shout out to YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, brought to you by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend. Open a First NorCal First Class Money Market today. And shout out to our friends at Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. If you're going to call it to the roast, you better bring it, because if you don't, you will be flushed. Brought to you by Flowing Water Plumbing and Drain. Look, Johnson was talking about a number of things, right? Lack of success about the draft picks. The farm system was a weakness, but obviously these guys have come up here. Starting the season's been frustrating. But how much of the offseason decisions were made with attendance in mind? Here's what Johnson had to say.
It is important, attendance, and I think that's part of the reasons why, we went out and made some aggressive moves in the offseason to bring in the kind of people that draw fans. And I think it's very unfortunate for somebody like Jung-Hoo Lee, who I think the fans were just starting to really appreciate. He's an exciting player. He's got a personality. He's just the kind of person that fans can get behind. And unfortunately, we lost him early. But, at the end of the day, the ballpark and the fan support is the major part of our revenue. So we've got to make sure that we keep fans engaged and have a competitive and interesting baseball team. And, I think we put that together this year, and that was part of our thinking in the offseason.
Well, also, did they go away? Was that the thought process as they have gone away from platooning? Here's what Johnson had to say about that.
It was a discussion we all had. And again, I do think the team we had to put out there and how we approached it over the last few years was just a result of the kind of mix of players we had and, having platoon pitchers, having to bring people up and down and switching people around. We know that's not great for fan engagement. And I think part of it, having Bob Melvin in there, who has a little bit, putting pitchers in a little bit longer, putting position players in, and then going out and getting position players that can be the ones playing regardless if it's a righty or lefty and be out there more. It's just better for the fans. And, we listened to the fans and we heard the criticism and we saw the drop in attendance. We dropped down to 17th last year. We're up to 7th this year. So, I think it's working and the fans seem excited and we're just thrilled to have people back in the park, and all that helps the decisions in the offseason.
It is interesting to me that he's acknowledged the connection between the two, which we've been talking about for how many years on air. The connection between, if the fans aren't engaged, I don't care that you win 84 games with a bunch of randos.
Yep.
Because I'm not entertained and I'm not engaged. Nope. And you know why all these decisions were made? Because it hit their wallets.
Uh-huh.
And finally their money was getting screwed up. And so when he references attendance, and I get mandatory we make the playoffs, to me, it's mandatory we start connecting with our fans. Yeah. Because if we can't connect with our fans, the days of $180 million payrolls are out the window.
Gosh, I'm so happy they're going away from platooning.
It's the first time they've acknowledged it.
Yeah, I am just so happy. Think about watching this team knowing they're platooning and they're selling it to us like, yeah, this is the best way to win games, blah, 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 blah. Real quick.
They went away from the, we're smarter than you, to the, we're listening to you and we care about your dollar.
Or, we're really not that smart.
You're smarter than us.
Yeah, we're right there. Wow. Bonte did have a point. Shasky did have a point. Wow. Let's get Farhad on the show. I'm ready for that. Johnson was asked, he was also asked if politics play into Renell Brooks' move before we get to Caller of the Week. Here's what he had to say about that.
Was there any chance or any way that her political statements or social movement statements clashed with, we know your father continues to donate to extremely right-wing causes. Was there any conflict there between her and your father, or her and anyone in ownership on a political?
Absolutely not. The ownership does not get involved in those kind of decisions, and that would be inappropriate to do that.
Very short. Very short. Are the politics of his dad, Charles, impacts the baseball team?
My view is that baseball and sports brings people together of all views. And the more we try to go red versus blue to divide orange versus black is a huge mistake. And I would say that we should focus on the Giants and baseball and not get into political views.
I mean,
he's a politician, right?
But Bonte, the reality is that you and I see this because we're trying to reach the largest, amount of people as possible. And when you do start talking about things that are quote unquote political, you divide your consumer base.
No doubt. And I do believe in Renell Brooks Moon, who I had a conversation with a couple weeks ago. I do believe that some of her political views, the Black Lives Matter movement, did hit some people in that organization hard, and they didn't forget. I truly believe that. That's just what I believe. I could be dead wrong, but those answers right there kind of give me that, kind of makes me feel like I'm right in that situation.